ever felt like you're standing before a locked door with no key? You've done all the right things. You've worked hard. You've prayed. You've waited. But no matter how much effort you pour in, nothing opens. The opportunity never comes. The healing doesn't happen. The peace you're craving stays just out of reach. You knock, but no one answers. You try, but nothing shifts. And in the quiet moments, you start to wonder, what is it that I'm missing? Comment below. Have you ever felt like you were right at the edge of something life-changing, but couldn't quite cross over? In the teachings of the Buddha, there is a truth both terrifying and liberating. The mind is the forerunner of all things. Our reality is not shaped by fate or chance, but by the intentions, words, and energy we carry. In other words, if the doors in your life remain closed, it may not be the world that's withholding them from you. It may be your own voice that's forgotten how to speak the words that unlock them. And yes, there are words that open doors, but they are not magic in the way we typically imagine. They don't come from superstition. They come from alignment, from spiritual power, from centuries of wisdom passed down from the Buddha to the monks, from the monasteries to the world. These words are like keys, not because they change reality directly, but because they change you. And when you change, the world responds. In Buddhist teachings, the power of speech is sacred. It's not about empty affirmations. It's about speaking from truth, speaking with awareness, speaking in harmony with the universal law of Dhamma. And there are 3 phrases, simple but profound, that when spoken with presence, devotion, and repetition, can change your energy entirely. Say them 3 times, not quickly, but with breath, with sincerity, with your full being, not as a performance, but as a practice, as a vow. The first phrase, I am aligned with the truth of this moment, because the truth is, most suffering arises when we resist what is, when we try to escape the present, when we think the answers are always somewhere else. But the door does not open in the future. It opens here, in the now. The Buddha called this sati, mindfulness, the full awareness of the present moment. When you say, I am aligned with the truth of this moment, you are no longer chasing. You are no longer fighting. You are standing still and turning inward. You are meeting life as it is, and that is when the path begins to reveal itself. That is when your inner doors of clarity, peace, and courage begin to unlock. The second phrase, I release my grasping and trust the unfolding. Grasping is a root of suffering, clinging to how things should be, clinging to outcomes, people, success, approval. The Buddha called it tanha, craving, and it is the reason we suffer when life doesn't go our way. But craving never leads to freedom. It only leads to more longing. When you say, I release my grasping and trust the unfolding, you are not giving up. You are letting go. You are making space. You are saying to the universe, I am willing to receive without demanding. I am willing to walk without forcing. I am willing to let life show me the door, even if it's not the one I had planned. Thich Nhat Hanh often taught that when you let go of expectations, you make room for miracles. Trust is not passive. It is the deepest form of courage. It means that you believe the Dhamma, the universal truth, is still operating, even when you cannot see the full picture. The third phrase, I bow to the wisdom that guides me from within. This is humility, and humility is the gateway to all spiritual doors. When you say this phrase, you acknowledge that the deepest truth does not come from the outside world. It comes from your own awakened heart. The Buddha never asked us to worship him. He asked us to realize the Buddha within ourselves. When you say, "I bow to the wisdom that guides me from within," you stop seeking validation from the outside. You stop begging for signs and start listening to the still, quiet knowing that's been waiting to speak. That knowing is your compass. And when you trust it, doors open, not because you force them, but because you finally walk the right path. These 3 phrases are not affirmations. They are invocations. They summon a deeper part of you. They align your consciousness with the truth that already exists. And when you speak them slowly, mindfully, with presence, you are not just saying words. You are creating ripples in the energy around you. In Buddhist tradition, we chant not because sound is magical, but because vibration shifts energy. Repetition deepens imprint. The mind begins to soften. The body begins to believe. The heart begins to align. So say them now. Not out loud if you can't, but from within. Speak them like a whisper to your soul. Breathe with them. Let them enter your bones. I am aligned with the truth of this moment. I release my grasping and trust the unfolding. I bow to the wisdom that guides me from within. 3 times, not rushed, not intellectual, felt. You may notice something shift even as you say them. A softening, a lightness, a deeper breath. These are not signs of magic. They are signs of return. Return to your center. Return to awareness. And when you return to that place, you return to power, because your power was never outside of you. It was never in the job, the lover, the opportunity. Your true power is presence. It is the stillness that watches everything come and go without losing itself. And when you live from that stillness, you move differently. You stop begging for the door to open. You simply walk to it with faith. And sometimes it opens. Sometimes it doesn't. But either way, you are free. Because your peace is no longer dependent on the door. It is carried within you. This is what the great monk Ajahn Sumedho called the path of surrender. Not surrender in defeat, but surrender as the highest intelligence. The wisdom to know that you cannot control life, but you can choose how you meet it. With awareness, with openness, with reverence. When you speak these words daily, they begin to change the landscape of your karma. They don't erase all pain, but they change your relationship to it. And that's everything. Because karma is not just what happens to you. Karma is also how you respond. So these phrases become your response. When fear arises, you say, I am aligned with the truth of this moment. When plans fall apart, you say, I release my grasping and trust the unfolding. When doubt whispers lies, you say, I bow to the wisdom that guides me from within. And slowly, the doors you once banged on in desperation begin to creak open, not because they finally changed, but because you did. You are not the same person who once stood in fear. You are rooted now, awake, whole. And this wholeness is what life responds to, the Buddha said. With our thoughts, we make the world. These words, these phrases are not just tools for comfort. They are the building blocks of your reality. Speak them not only when things are hard, but especially when things are calm. Plant them into the soil of your everyday life. Let them be the first thing you say in the morning, the last thing before bed. Let them echo in your heart as you walk through your day. And watch what unfolds. Watch what unfolds when your inner speech becomes a sacred practice, not a ritual of superstition, but a rhythm of remembering, not a trick to get what you want, but a returning to who you are. Because when you begin to say the right words, not once, not hurriedly, but 3 times, slowly, with breath and awareness, you are not casting a spell on the universe. You are casting off the dust that clouds your clarity. You are waking up the part of you that already knows the way. I am aligned with the truth of this moment. This is not a sentence, it is a mirror that shows you where you are still resisting, still pretending, still delaying the truth. The truth might be uncomfortable. Maybe you're grieving. Maybe you're lost. Maybe you're angry, exhausted, or stuck in patterns you promised yourself you'd outgrow. But to align with the truth of the moment is to stop running. It's to sit in the fire of what is and trust that being here, fully present, is the first step toward liberation. This phrase is echoed in the teachings of Zen Master Dogen, who said, "Enlightenment is intimacy with all things, not escape from your reality, but intimacy with it. When you speak the phrase, you're turning toward the very life you tried to fix or flee. And from that turning, wisdom arises." The second phrase, "I release my grasping and trust the unfolding," asks something more radical. It asks you to release your grip on how you think things should unfold. It asks you to recognize your own craving mind. In Buddhism, upadana is the term for clinging. It's the grasping that gives fuel to the fire of suffering. We want love, but in our shape, on our terms, in our time. We want clarity, but without the silence it demands. We want success, but only if it doesn't require losing the comfort we secretly cling to. But here's the hard truth: clinging creates chaos. And trusting doesn't mean you stop wanting. It means you stop forcing. The lotus doesn't bloom because it resents the mud. It blooms because it surrenders to the process of emergence. It trusts that the darkness is part of the journey to light. When you speak this phrase 3 times, you're not giving up your power, you're reclaiming it. Because your real power is not in bending life to your will. It is in walking in step with the Dhamma, the law of nature, the unfolding of life, like the Buddha under the Bodhi tree. You don't run from suffering, you sit still until it reveals its nature. The final phrase, "I bow to the wisdom that guides me from within," is not an act of ego. It's an act of humility. It is a surrender to the deepest intelligence that lives in you. Not your intellect, not your conditioning, but the awakened seed of Buddha nature that is buried beneath the noise of your daily mind. Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron often reminds us, "You are the sky. Everything else, it's just the weather." When you say this phrase, you bow not to your thoughts, but to the space that holds them. You bow to the quiet center that watches without clinging, reacts without reactivity, holds presence even in the midst of chaos. You are not seeking guidance from a God above. You are calling forth the part of you that has always been connected to truth. That still small voice that whispers in your moments of stillness. That presence you've touched in meditation, or when holding someone in grief, or when watching the stars in silence. This is the wisdom that speaks without fear. The wisdom that opens doors, not by kicking them down, but by walking to the right one, at the right time, with the right heart. Say the words again. I am aligned with the truth of this moment. I release my grasping and trust the unfolding. I bow to the wisdom that guides me from within. 3 times. Each time, deeper. Each time, quieter. Each time, more sincere. You are not just speaking, you are integrating. You are aligning your speech, thought, and heart with the path of awakening. And as you continue this practice, you will notice something subtle. You begin to suffer less, not because life becomes easier, but because your resistance weakens. The same situations may arise, but your reaction changes. The same doors may stay closed, but you no longer panic. The same questions may remain unanswered, but you stop searching for peace in the answer. You become peace. And from that peace, doors open. Not always the ones you expected. Sometimes the doors that open lead you into challenge, into the unknown. But they are right. They are timely. They are sacred, because they are aligned with who you have become, not who you used to be. This is the heart of Buddhist transformation. Not instant miracles, but slow, steady purification of mind, the softening of the self that insists it knows best, the loosening of the ego that fears surrender, the awakening of a deeper truth that says, I don't need to chase. I only need to be still enough to receive. The more you say these phrases, the more they live in your breath. They become mantras not for escape, but for embodiment, not for wishful thinking, but for radical presence. They are not tools to get what you want. They are invitations to remember what you are. Say them in the morning, when the mind is fresh and habits are still soft. Say them at night, when the day has worn you down and the subconscious begins to stir. Say them when life disappoints you. Say them when joy surprises you. Say them when you feel nothing. And say them especially when you feel everything. They are not magic spells. They are sacred reminders. You do not open doors by forcing them. You open doors by becoming the person who knows which doors are already open. You walk not by certainty, but by stillness. You trust not by logic, but by presence. You create not by control, but by clearing the inner space through which life can flow. And you begin to understand that some doors were closed not to punish you, but to redirect you. Some delays were sacred timing. Some rejections were divine interventions. Some heartbreaks were initiations. And some longings were never meant to be fulfilled, but to point you inward, toward the only longing that truly matters, the longing for awakening. The Buddha said, "There is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path." These phrases are the footsteps on that path. Spoken mindfully, they change the air you walk through. They don't promise an easier life, but they promise a more truthful one. And in truth, all doors open, because the ultimate door is the door within, the one that opens when you remember who you are, when you live from that knowing, when your speech, intention, and action are rooted not in fear or lack, but in clarity, compassion, and trust. So once more, say them now, with your breath, with your whole being. I am aligned with the truth of this moment. I release my grasping and trust the unfolding. I bow to the wisdom that guides me from within, and then walk, not to find doors, but to become the one they were always meant to open for.